Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India. Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Namaste. Welcome to the fourth session of the course Yoga and Positive Psychology for Managing Career and Life. In this session, we are going to examine the yogic tradition through the lens of positive psychology. Before we harp on this journey, let us have a quick recap of what we discussed in the previous session. So, if you can recall, we discussed about the three pillars of positive psychology, and these pillars are about positive subjective experiences, individual characteristics, and social institutions and communities. Positive psychology is examined and can be understood in the context of individual subjective experiences like well-being, satisfaction, optimism, hope, happiness. It can be understood as a positive individual characteristics like virtues related to courage, wisdom, interpersonal skills, aesthetic sensibilities, etc. And there is a macro aspect of positive psychology as well, that is related to the social institutions and human behavior in the institutional climate and institutional context. So, we discussed about these things. We also looked at that positive psychology is now entering in the second wave, as some people call it. The second wave of positive psychology is distinct from the earlier years of positive psychology, which eventually were called the first wave, that is in terms of accepting and confronting with courage the reality that life is full of evil and suffering, and life has evil and suffering. Along with that, we have tendency for the optimal experiences. So, the evil and suffering and optimal experiences, our tendency to build competency, belongingness, determination, they coexist. Second, sustainable well-being can be achieved through overcoming suffering and dark side of life. So, though there is suffering, it can be overcome. It is something very similar to what Buddha said, that there is a suffering and there is a way of alleviating the suffering. Third, this wave, the second wave of positive psychology, recognizes that everything in life comes in polarities and importance of achieving an adaptive balance is required. So, some emotions can be negative in certain sense, in certain context, but they may not be negative, they may in fact desirable in certain sense, in certain context, in some situations. So, there is a recognition about that, and there is a lot more openness to look at the indigenous psychology traditions, spiritual traditions which have implication on the socio-psychological life of human being, that is acceptable, and now the research studies are moving towards more assimilation of these traditions in the so called mainstream psychology literature. So, let us look at yoga through the lens of positive psychology. When we look at yoga and overall yogic tradition, and here we do not mean yoga is only about asanas, pranayam and dhyan, we here mean yoga in the broadest sense as it is defined in the paper of Dagar and Pandey. This yoga tradition encompasses emotional aspects, cognitive aspects, aspects related to mind, aspects related to breath. It is also related to the worldviews, traditions involved and emerging from that worldview. So, if we look at the yogic tradition in the broadest sense, we see that there are lot of ideas which are reflection of the positivity and human potential in the yogic tradition, that is reflected in terms of holistic life goals. Life goals are understood to be holistic in nature. That means it includes sensuous pleasure, it also appreciates the spiritual growth and evolution. It accepts the diverse pathways. So, holistic life goal and diverse pathways of achieving those goals, that is first hallmark of yogic tradition. Yogic tradition also elaborate in great detail about positive behavior and positive characteristics of human being. This has also a great elaboration on the positive experiences, maybe in the form of different emotions, in the form of different levels of ecstasy described in the Taittiriya Upanishad, in the Anandavalli or Brahmanandavalli Sutra. It is also in the form of different type of samadhis explained in the Yoga Sutra. So, there is a great deal of reflection and elaboration on the positive experiences. Yogic tradition are also replete with positive events. If we look at, even if you look at today's calendar, the Hindu calendar of Vikram Samvat, you will see some tithi, and tithi will have some particular name that must be reflecting what should be done, how should be celebrated that particular day, and that celebration is related to the weather conditions, lifestyle and the stage of life. So, there are great elaboration, there is immense opportunities for positive events. Yogic tradition also talk about positive institutions, family, educational institutions, government. These are some of the positive institutions. The potentiality and positivity of those institutions are also explained in great depth in the yogic tradition. Then we also talk about positive society. Positive society is the outcome or reflection of pursuing all these positive aspects of life. Though there is a great deal of recognition that human beings have negativity, evil, problems, disorders, but there are many pathways, processes and interventions to outgrow from those evil and inculcate all these positive aspects of life. So, first look at the holistic life goal as the expression of positivity and human potential in yogic tradition. It is greatly subscribed in the yogic traditions that human beings have to pursue 4 major objectives or goals of life. These 4 goals are dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Dharma is the most essential aspect, or you can say the most distinguishing feature of yogic tradition or dharmic tradition. Dharma is not related to religion, it is not related to belief system, dogma, rituals or practices. Though dharmic processes may involve all these, but dharma essentially is much subtler than all of this. So, what is dharma? Dharma is defined as dhriyati lokan anen dharati lokam va. That means that which supports or that holds together everyone and everything. So, dharayet iti dharma and dharayati iti dharma both are accepted interpretations of the word dharma. That means that which upholds and that which should be upheld. In a particular situation, in a particular context, what should be upheld, that is dharma. That is why some people connect that with morality, righteousness or the purpose of life, etc. And that which upholds, that means that is also related to the intrinsic subtle universal order in the world, and choosing our action not to disrupt that harmony. Now, what is the criteria? Whether what I am choosing at the moment, whether what is considered or what I am considering dharma of mine in a particular situation, whether it is correct or not correct. What is the criteria? So, criteria comes from the Vaisheshik darshan, which says yatobhyudayani shreyasa siddhi sa dharma, that which brings abhyuday and that which brings shreyas. So, that which brings abhyuday and that which brings shreyas, that is called dharma. What is abhyuday? Abhyuday is the word combined by abhi, uday. Abhi means all encompassing or going beyond the individual. Uday is arising, uprising or evolution. So, that which results into collective growth and development, that is abhyuday. And nishreyas, that means that which brings the spiritual evolution, that which brings my understanding and experience of oneness with overall existence. So, that is spirituality, that is adhyatma in the Indian tradition. So, dharma is defined as something, the criteria for dharma is that which brings the collective development, abhyuday and nishreyas, spiritual evolution, that is the dharma. That is the first objective of human life. Second objective is artha. Artha means worldly wealth, that is more connected to the material aspect, material possessions. Arth, that on which transaction can take place, that which is related to the social recognition. So, material possession being valued by human being. So, artha is the second objective. Kama is the third objective, that is related to sensuous pleasure. It is also related to the psychological needs. So, sensuous pleasure, psychological needs are not being looked down upon, they are accepted as valid life goals. And last but final objective of human life as prescribed in the yogic tradition is moksha, transcending desires and attachment. And moksha is defined by different traditions in different language. For example, moksha according to Ashtanga Yoga is more like attaining samadhi. Moksha in the Bhakti Yoga is attaining that loka, that level of consciousness to which my Ishtadev, my deity belongs to. From the Jnana Yoga perspective, moksha is defined as realization of Brahman, and basically it is a self realization of Brahman, because Brahman and Atman, individual self or universal self, are not distinct. That distinction what people experience is result of their ignorance. So, when we remove the veil of ignorance through the practice of Jnana by pursuing true knowledge, we attain moksha. So, moksha is defined in different languages in the different pathways, because there is a diversity, there is an acceptance of diversity of multiple pathways to achieve the ultimate objective of human life, and that is why they use different languages. In this picture, we have tried to explain these four aspects together. So, in the background, the cycle or the chakra you see is reflection of dharma. Dharma is reflection of the cyclicity of the nature. Dharma is reflected in the governing principles. It is reflected in the universal harmony which is must for life to sustain. So, that is the background, and in that background and that being the guide, we can pursue artha and kama. So, the other two pictures are related to those, but the final objective is to transcending all that. Final objective is to be free from all this, all these pursuances. So, that is the fourth objective. These are together called Chaturvarg. If we look at the most of the economic thinking, they recognize the earth and calm. So, they recognize the Dvivarg, and that is what distinguishes a typical materialistic economic thinking and yogic perspective, because yogic perspective also brings two other aspects, dharma and moksha. Dharma is matter of realization, that is why it cannot be equated with ethics. However, it is not opposite of ethics. Ethics is the codification of dharma. However, any kind of code cannot be relevant for all the people all the time in all the situations. So, it is important to have that dhruti, to have that sense, to have that perceptibility to decipher or to identify what is the dharma in a particular stage of life, in particular context, in particular situation. And to get that understanding, we need to purify our mind, and purification of mind is the process of yoga sadhana. Purification is the necessary condition for the self realization. This also reflects that the basic assumption of the Indian psychology and yogic tradition is that human beings inherently are divine, but their divinity is overshadowed, the light of their divinity is overshadowed by ignorance, and that ignorance is nothing but recognizing human life, individual life separate from the collective life or separate from the universal life. That is the ultimate expression or ultimate manifestation of ignorance. To remove the ignorance, we need practice, and that practice is called sadhana. So, these four supreme ends link up the realm of desires with the perspective of the eternal and bind together the kingdom of earth and heaven. These are the beautiful words written by Dr. S. Radhakrishnan to explain and to explicate the nature of these four objectives. There is a short video of which the link is given of Satya Nadella, and in the conversation in this video, Satya Nadella says that family life, taking care of society, taking care of your people, taking care of your organization, taking care of the personal well-being, all these are equally important goals. So, it is not the matter of balancing, it is a matter of harmonizing all these. You can watch that video, which is in a way reflection of the all four objectives as explained in the yogic tradition. You also have the link of dharmawiki.org, and this is a repository of explanation and elaboration of many yogic concepts we have used till now, and we will be using in the upcoming sessions. So, this is about the holistic life goals, meaning and purpose as we understand in the current times. Next aspect of the yogic tradition is about recognizing all shades of emotions. So, many of you must have heard about 9 or 10 rasas. Shrangar is related to love and attractiveness, Hasyam is related to laughter, comedy, mirth, Raudram is related to fury, Karunyam is expressed through compassion, mercy, Bibhatsam is reflected in disgust and aversion, Bhayanak is also recognized as rasa, as juice of life, as essence of life, as essence through which we experience life, and that is related to horror and terror. Veeram is related to the heroic mood, Adbhut is related to wonder and sense of amazement, Shantam is peace and tranquility, and of late one more rasa was included with the title Vatsalya, that is parental love, affection towards the deity or towards the world. That was more popularized in the medieval period when bhakti, the devotion movement was at its upsurge. So, if you look at these list of emotion, these are rasas. No rasa is considered to be more or less important. They are accepted as the expression and experience of life. So, all rasas can be directed towards creative expression. So, you will see in the Mohiniyattam or Bharatnatyam, you will see all the rasas being explained. In the sculpture, we see in so many temples, all the rasas are explained, all rasas are accepted. So, there is a tendency in the yogic tradition and Indian tradition to embrace all form of emotions and accepting the possibility of elevating the human mind and human soul to the next level, to the higher level of evolution through all the rasas. And if we try to understand the emotional intelligence from the perspective of yogic tradition or Indian tradition, keeping these rasas in mind, we can very simply say that our ability to experience all rasas and ability of coming back quickly to the Shantaras is the definition of emotional intelligence. So, Shantaras is like zero gear. So, you drive vehicle at higher gears, first, second, third, fourth gear, and eventually it has come to halt and you halt it and bring that to the zero gear. So, that is also that analogy can be used to understand emotional intelligence from the perspective of rasa, from the perspective of yogic tradition. That is why somewhere in Bhagavad Gita it is said that samatvam yoga uchyate, balance is yoga, and this is the tagline of the Yogastha Club of IIT Bombay. We briefly talked about Yogastha Club in the previous session, which organizes the yoga sessions, yoga practice sessions and yoga knowledge sessions very regularly in the institute. So, that also has this yoga samatvam yoga uchyate as the punchline, as their tagline, and that is reflection of the one definition of yoga, which is equanimity and balance. Yoga Sutra very clearly articulate the positive behaviors as well. In the Bhagavad Gita, we see more elaboration of these positive behavior and positive properties of human being. So, in the Yoga Sutra, positive behaviors are identified. In the particularly two sutras which are related to yamas and niyamas. Yama are ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, aparigraha. These are called yama. Let us look at the etymology of the word yama. Yama word reflects rein, the instrument with which a charioteer controls the horses, or the rope which is used to control the horses by the charioteer. It is related to restrainer. Yama is also another name of an entity which is responsible to maintain law and order, maintain dharma in the behavior of the different organisms and definitely behavior of the human beings. So, Dharma Raj is the one who is responsible to maintain and ensuring the rightful dharmic human behavior, that is called Dharmaraj, and that is another name of Yama. Yama is also meaning universal order. So, it is a reflection of the custodian of the universal order. So, these are not related to any context, these are to be maintained, these are to be followed in the all situation, because these are the basis on which the nature operates. If we deviate from these, nature will have its course correction. So, what are those yamas? These are satya, being truthful, ahimsa, that is non-violence or not hurting, asteya, that is not stealing, that which is not mine, not acquiring or not getting or not picking up from the others. So, yama are satya, that is truthfulness, being righteous, ahimsa, that is non-violence. This also includes not hurting, asteya, non-stealing, not taking away that which does not belong to me, aparigraha, not hoarding. Even if I can afford, I should not accumulate that which is not required by me, that is not needed for me, and brahmacharya. Brahmacharya meaning restrain on the senses, and that behavior that leads to ultimate realization of Brahma. Yoga Sutra also talk about niyama. Niyama are the modes through which yama can be realized. So, these are the committed engagements. You have to make extra effort to follow the niyama, and niyamas are required for us to behave according to yamas. What are the niyamas? Niyamas are, first is shauch. Though we have to follow yama, we have to follow satya, ahimsa, asteya, aparigraha, brahmacharya, but human tendencies take over, we all know that. So, first niyam is shauch, cleanliness, extrinsic cleanliness as well as intrinsic cleanliness. That is first niyama, because that is the basis on which we can ensure that we follow yamas. Santosh. Santosh is sense of contentment. That which I have, I need to have sense how much I need to possess, how much I need to have, so that it is good for me and it does not deprive others to have it. So, we can look at santosh. Santosh is very much required to practice asteya and aparigraha. If I do not have asteya, if I do not follow the name of santosh, I cannot follow the asteya and aparigraha. Third is tapas, self discipline. Why tapas is important and how it is connected to yama? We say satya. What are the limits of satya? Satya can be limited to what I speak. Satya may be related to my behavior. Satya may be reflected in my thinking. Satya may be reflected in my understanding. I might be speaking satya, but my understanding of satya might be primordial, might be primitive, that might require evolution. Similarly, aparigraha, how much I can consider important, how much I consider useful for me individually. So, there can be different levels of aparigraha. How much I can give in the donations, how much can be given for dhanam, and how much I should keep for myself, my own uses, that degree can also vary. So, we need to keep developing the capacity to not be dependent on external possessions, and that practice requires regularity. That practice, the higher level of aparigraha, higher level of ahimsa, higher level of asteya are not possible without consciously taking up hardships, without consciously controlling our mind, without consciously regulating our desires, and that is called tapas, that is self discipline. Swadhyaya, I may consider that something is satya, something is ahimsa, something is asteya, and I am following it, but my understanding might be incorrect. My understanding requires to get sharpened every day, because every day brings different context, every day brings different situation. So, we need to consciously and continuously keep reflecting on our behavior, on our thoughts, on our words. So, how can we do that reflection? For the self reflection, we need to read, we need to study the text, we need to study the Shastra, Yoga Sutra or Bhagavad Gita. The Prasthantrayi, these are considered the most important Shastras for Swadhyaya, self reflection and self study. That self study is required, because without self study there cannot be self reflection. Without self reflection, I may cook up my own theories about Satya Ahimsa Aste. I may not take feedback and I may not pick up the right action which is relevant, which is according to dharma in a particular moment. So, Swadhyaya is important. Swadhyaya has 3 stages: Adhyan, Manan, Nididhyasan. Adhyan meaning studying, Manan means thinking about it, internalizing, and Nididhyasan is the revision and implementation in the real life. So, revision consciously, cognitively, and also revising when I have to choose my action. So, Swadhyaya has all 3 aspects, and Patanjali Yoga Sutra also says Ishwar Pranidhan. It is surrender to the higher power, higher order, surrender to the universal law, universal principles. Ishwar can be understood in different ways according to the path of the sadhana, and surrender to that higher power can also help us to follow the yamas which are Satya, Ahimsa, Asteya, Parigraha, Brahmacharya. Similar things are expressed in the Manu Smriti as well, which says that Akrodha Satyavachanam Samvibhaga Chama Tatha Prajanah Sweshu Dareshu Sochamadroha Evacha. Free from anger, sharing wealth with others, forgiveness, procreation of children from only one's wife alone, following purity, absence of enmity, straightforwardness, maintaining people dependent on oneself are the set of 9 rules. So, this is described in the Manu Smriti. The picture you see is the reflection of Patanjali, the sage who is attributed this great work of documenting the yogas in the form of the formulaic composition Yoga Sutra, and his head is reflected with the heads of the snakes. Snake in our tradition is considered to be most receptive organism. So, Patanjali is considered to have the receptivity equivalent to 100 snakes. That is why his head is reflected in the form of the Sheshanag or the snake which has 100 hoods. So, we all know that all the chapters of Bhagavad Gita are called yogas. They are different aspect of yogas. So, for example, first chapter is known as Arjun Vishada Yoga, second chapter is known as Sankhya Yoga, 15th chapter is known as Purushottam Yoga. So, this whole Bhagavad Gita is also considered a yogic text, and in this yogic text, in the 16th chapter, positivity, human potential is elaborated in the most extensive ways. These are called Daivi Sampada and Asuri Sampada. Daivi is divine, Asuri meaning demonic, Sampada meaning possessions or property. These are also qualities, but these are something which can be changed as well. So, Daivi Sampada and Asuri Sampada, these are the 2 straight classification given in the 16th chapter, which is perhaps the most detailed exposition of human potentiality and positivity. These shlokas are Abhayam Sattva Sanshuddhi, Jnana Yoga Vyavasthiti, Danam Damascha Yagyascha, Swadhyayastapa Arjavam, Ahimsa Satyam Krodhas Tyagah Shantirapishunam, Daya Bhuteshu Lolutvam, Mardavam Hir Chapalam, Tejah Chama Dhriti Shaucham Droho Nati Manita, Bhavanti Sampadam Daivi Mabhijatasya Bharata. These are 26 Daivi Sampada or divine qualities. These are most pious qualities. These are something to be looked up to. These are something we need to develop in ourselves. These are the also reflection of the human potential and human possibilities. These are also the ways of realizing ultimate human possibility. So, these are the goals as well as the path to pursue the human excellence according to the yogic tradition, and this excellence is ultimately reflected in the liberation, but it is also reflected in the very refined sense of calm and also well developed system for earth, material possessions and the sensuous pleasure, to enjoy these two for the long duration, which is not in contradiction or in disharmony with the world. For that also these qualities are required. We are going to have a separate session on the Daivi Sampada, because they are not eclectic features or eclectic qualities. These are reflection of the 5 core qualities which are explained at different places in the yogic tradition. Nirmana moha, jidasanga dosha, radhatmanitya, vinivritta kama, dvandar vimukta, sukadukka sange, kachanta moodha padmam dayam tat. So these 26 potentialities can be clubbed into those 5 things, and those 5 things are reflection of the yogic worldview and the ideals of life. So we are going to have a more detailed conversation on these Daivi Sampada, these qualities, but for to understand it briefly, but to have some idea, we can explain few of these in this session. So the first quality, the first human potential, the positive human potential is abhayam, fearlessness. Swami Vivekananda in his lectures explained this at many places. He says that the theme of Vedic literature, the call of Vedic rishis is being abhih, be fearless. Why fearless and for what fearless? For what fearless? We have to be fearless to follow our dharma. If we look at the first and last word of Bhagavad Gita, these are dharma and mama. So this text is about discovering our dharma. We already have seen the definition of dharma, and dharma that is not related to religion, it is not at all religion. Dharma is identifying that action, those thoughts, those words which cause abhyuday, means general development, socio-economic development in the management terms, and nishreyas, spiritual development. So that which result into both, that is dharma. That is expressed according to our aptitude and station of life. So being fearless in following our dharma. Without being fearless, we cannot follow our dharma. So that is why the first quality identified in the list of the Daivi Sampada is abhayam. Second is sattva sanshuddhi. Sattva sanshuddhi, sattva we will explain it in the later sessions in more detail. Sattva is the righteousness, satya is the illumination, satya is the harmonious aspect of life. Sattva has to take the help of Raj and Tam to perform its work. Raj is related to excitement, enjoyment, sensuous enjoyment, and moving from one aspect to another aspect of life. Tam is related to inertia. So activity and inertia has to be balanced. So that faculty through which that balance is attained in life is called sattva. So having sattva, that means right balance of activity and inertia. Sanshuddhi. Sanshuddhi is meaning when we have this balance of activity and inertia, we attain, and that is the point of attaining purity. So consistently remain in purity, that is called sattva sanshuddhi. And we should not forget the context of all these qualities. Context of all these qualities is performing dharma, attaining moksha, also enjoying artha and kam according to our swadharma. So, Sattva Sanshuddhi is the second quality. Jnana Yoga Vyavasthiti, established in knowledge. Which knowledge? So, according to the yogic tradition, ultimately knowledge is experience and recognition of oneness with the whole existence. So, our sense of being separated is result of ignorance, and going away of that ignorance is important. That is the state of jnana. So, attaining that jnana through yoga, the process through which that jnana is attained is yoga. So, jnana is the outcome, yoga is the process, vyavasthiti meaning maintenance. So, attaining that jnana which is about the recognition of realization that whole existence is one or non-dual, pursuing the process to attain that knowledge and being and remaining established in that. We all get glimpse of that oneness many times in many occasions of life, but how to retain that, how to maintain that knowledge, how to maintain that experience, how to behave in a day to day manner as if we are connecting to everything else, that is jnana yoga vyavasthiti. Danam damascha yagyascha. Danam meaning charity, danam meaning giving away, willingly sharing, not enjoying whatever you have individually, not enjoying only for the self aggrandization or self satisfaction, but enjoying by after giving away, after sharing, that is dana. Damah, that is control of the senses. In order to practice all these potentialities, there is something which comes on our way, which are the obstacles. That obstacle are about our tendency of the man to enjoy the sensuous pleasure. Sensuous pleasure is not unacceptable, it is acceptable in the form of kama, but uncontrolled enjoyment can create problem in the world and can create problem for our individual health. So, having that sense of self control, that is dhamma. Yajna is performance of sacrifice, doing something in a selfless manner, all that which is done for others in the selfless manner is qualified to be yajna. So, these are some of the examples. We just look at Swadhyaya in the Yoga Sutra. So, you can see that in the Yoga Sutra and Bhagavad Gita, there is some overlap in the human potentiality in the form of Swadhyaya or in the form of Satyam. So, these qualities are the positive human potentialities accepted in the yogic tradition. We are going to have more detailed discussion on those in the later sessions. Those who are the student of social sciences must be aware of the construct validity, and one construct validity meaning whether that construct mean what it is supposed to mean or not. So, that is the construct validity, and construct validity is not only is established not only by looking at the correlations of this construct with other constructs. The construct validity is also established by looking at the opposite constructs. So, in order to understand the human potentiality, the positive human potentialities of the human being, we also need to understand the negative potentialities or negative properties. These negative properties are called Asuri Sampada. Why it is called Asuri Sampada? Asuri, the word come through two roots. Actually, we can understand Asur in two ways. First way is the As Dhatu, the root word, fighting, shouting in the anger, or throwing away something, or hitting someone. So, those who are engaged in these kind of behavior, fighting, shouting, snatching, those are asur. So, these are the asuri sampada. Asur is also a term used for disharmony, because sur meaning harmony. So, asur meaning disharmony. So, those who create disharmony in the world and those who have disharmony within, both are called asuras. So, what are the asuri sampada? That is also required, because without understanding asuri sampada, we cannot understand daivi sampada, the divine qualities, which we just touched upon and discussed in the previous slide. What are the asuri sampada? Dambho darpobhimanascha krodha parushyameva. Only 6. These are the 5, and 6th one is agyan. Dambho darpobhimanascha krodha parushyameva अज्ञानम चाभिजातस्य पार्थ संपदाम मासुरीम. दंभ, दर्प, क्रोध, पारुष्यम, अज्ञान, these are the 6 asuri sampada. We can consciously inculcate the human potentiality, the positive characteristics or positive properties, divine properties, which we looked at in the previous slide. We can also consciously work to remove these negative qualities. In both ways, we can attain the true human potentiality. In both ways, we can not only realize our swadharma, but we can thrive in our life. Because when we identify swadharma, when we identify what is my aptitude, and also identify how can I offer it to the world to maintain the world order, how can I offer it to enhance the harmony in the world, then my life also get harmonized within and without. So, these 6 qualities are dambha, darpa, abhimana. What is dambha? Dambha meaning hypocrisy. Dambha meaning that which you are expected to do, for that you are showing off. So, showing off even for what is your natural expected behavior, so that is dambha. I have to listen music, I can do that, but if I play it at very high volume, that is dambha. I have to do the customer service, I have to teach students, I have to do my project, but even for doing my project, even for doing my normal work, expected work, I am showing off. That is dambha. Darpa, when show off combines with arrogance. Darpa is also not showing off what we have done, darpa is also showing off and arrogantly showing off our power, our connections, our references, our possessions. So, darp is being extra ostentatious, making others feel small. That behavior is darpa. That is why darp also means bad order. Dambha, darpa, abhimana. Abhimana is breaching the limits of self-esteem. We always, we have to have self-esteem. That meaning we need to have confidence on whatever we are doing. We should not start questioning our self-concept just at every stage in every conversation. We should not feel that. However, crossing that genuine limit, crossing the rational, reasonable limit of self-esteem is abhimana, that is conceit. Krodha is the 4th asuri sampad, that comes from the root word krudh, that means losing balance. So, krodha means losing internal balance in even small unfavorable situation or unfavorable behavior. Someone has done something, I am a manager, even the small aberration in the behavior of my subordinate make me disturbed, make me hyper, that is krodha. So, not losing out balance when something happens or when something takes place in front of us which is not favorable, that is krodha. Krodha generally arises from my attachment or moha. We need to control that. That also has to be regulated. It has its utility, but it has to be regulated. And again, what is the criteria for regulation? The criteria for regulation is dharma and swadharma. Whether it is causing abhyuday and nishreyas, and whether it is according to my aptitude and my way of contributing to the world, these are the supreme criteria against which I need to regulate my krodha. Paurushyam is harshness. Some people have natural tendency to use harsh words for others even without any apparent reasons. This is more verbal expression of krodha, and many times it is quality in itself. Many times people use abusive words, abusive language even without krodha. So, that is the fifth asuri sampada, paurushyam, harshness, abuse. Using abusive language. Last but probably the basis of all these five is ajnanam, and probably that is why ajnanam is put up in the second line of the shloka. Ajnanam is ignorance, and we have seen that what is the jnana? The ultimately jnana is the recognition and experience of oneness of life. Yoga means that which joins, that which reconnects, otherwise this world is all connected. The origin of this universe started with the one point, and then it manifested in the diverse forms, and the diverse qualities and properties were acquired by these diverse forms. Not recognizing that and not experiencing that, that is ajnana. And when I distinguish myself from others, when I do not experience oneness with others, then naturally dambah, darpah, abhimanah, krodhah, paurushyam occur in our life. That is why ajnana is the foundation of all the asuri sampada. So, here we saw daivi sampada and asuri sampada are the very elaborate detailed exposition of human potentialities and human positivity.